Robert is in Croydon. Robert, good evening. What's your question?
Hi, Daniel. I'm a leaseholder who has lived in my flat for 7 years. In recent months, there is a noise of very loud creaking floorboards on and off, and particularly at night, which wakes me up the whole time. I've tried to engage with the flat in question, but they ignore my emails and calls. I understand that they have to maintain their flooring under the lease, and I just wondered what I can do about this, and if there's any ability for me to soundproof the wall where the noise is coming from, and then try and claim the money back. Another issue is that they will not grant me access, so I can't prove categorically they're causing the problem. I just wondered what assistance you could provide with me with this, please.
Robert, are you both tenants of the same landlord?
Yes, we're both long leaseholders. Right.
Does your landlord have any repairing obligations? I assume not for that sort of thing if you're a long leaseholder.
I've looked at the lease and it states that non-structural floorboards are the responsibility of the leaseholders.
Okay. Now, this is going to be really tricky, I'm afraid, and I don't think you're going to like my answer, Robert, because I know how frustrating these things can be, particularly when they disturb your sleep. You can certainly speak to them and try and ask them to do something about their creaky floorboards, and you've done that. Although you're under no obligation to do so, you can offer to contribute some money, which might make it more likely that they will repair their floorboards. But of course, they're probably largely unaware of the impact on you because the floorboards can creak down and they can be almost entirely unaware of the noise. And they're not going to want the disruption of replacing floorboards that, from their point of view, are perfectly workable and fine. The reason I said that I'm not going to be able to give you any good news here is that creaky floorboards is unlikely to be enough to amount to a statutory nuisance, which could mean that you could either take court action or could get the local authority environmental department involved to help you, because whilst they are there to help with particularly egregious cases of noisy neighbours, I don't think they'll regard creaky floorboards, no matter how frustrating and irritating they might be, as enough of a reason to start enforcement proceedings. Robert, I'm very sorry, but I'm not sure the law's going to be able to help you here.
But Daniel, how can I make them enforce the covenants that they've agreed to in the lease to maintain their floorboards? Is there not a way to do that?
Well, the landlord can do that, and you can compel the landlord to get them to enforce it. But courts don't always like court action taken over things that they think are not massively significant, because courts are very precious of limited time, and they just might regard creaky floorboards as something that should be settled by agreement or dealt with some other way, perhaps by alternative dispute resolution, which is something to look at. And neighbours who engage in this sort of litigation tend to find that the courts don't award legal costs back, meaning that the legal cost you'd end up paying will potentially be quite significant. The courts aren't always an ideal answer in this sort of situation, Robert. I'm very sorry. But possibly, as I said, alternative dispute resolution, finding a mediator might be some way of working this through. And possibly the mediator might be able to persuade the landlord to contribute some money as well. Although on a long lease, that's less likely. Thank you so much for the call, Robert. Bartek is in Kew Bridge. Bartek, good evening. What's your question?